Alright, so I have in my hands a yearbook that I recommend everybody buy. As a subscriber, I believe I got this earlier than others will in the stores. Because usually the first magazine I get of the hockey magazine cycle is the one that talks about fantasy impacts and who's going to be the top fantasy guys. And that's always fun to look through. This magazine has some goods. It talks about how Minnesota got it right with their new jerseys. And I kind of agree. I don't like the shield. I don't like the shield, and I don't like the new necklines. And I've said it, and it bears repeating. They talk about rookies. They talk about free agent watch, what's coming up. They talk about the Nashville Predators and their blue line. There's an article in here on Matthews versus Laine and who the better player is. They make it so there's no better player. Top 50 players, though. I'm going to put this up here. They have Connor McDavid ahead of Sidney Crosby. So, there's that. By the slimmest of margins, McDavid takes the crown from Sidney Crosby. Why? Because the Oilers' boy king has yet to play his best hockey, and what we've seen already has been outstanding. Expect an even higher level of elite skill and speed from McDavid in year 3 of the Edmonton Resurrection as Stanley Cup is possible. So, but what really interested me and what made me say, all right, I'm gonna do this. This is going to be fun. They have an article in here on which Canadian team is most likely to win the Cup. They have the Edmonton Oilers first and Toronto second, which is close to my heart, of course. They got the Canucks dead last. Again, this magazine is really close. This is why I did all my preseason stuff early. I did all my previews early, so people can't say, oh, well, clearly you're just following the hockey news. Because what's interesting is their Stanley Cup champion's different. They're picking Pittsburgh over Edmonton in the final. But if you look at the standings, okay, if you look at their projected standings, they're not that far off from mine. In fact, they've got Dallas higher up than I do. They've pretty much got the Pacific the same as I do. And not only that, but if you look at the stars, the teams with stars are the ones they're projecting are going to make the playoffs. So they're calling 5 teams from the Central, 5 teams from the Metro. They're projecting that Ottawa's going to miss the playoffs. The only team that they have making the playoffs that I said may miss is Montreal. And the only team that I picked to make the playoffs that they're saying is going to miss is Ottawa. They have Carolina in the playoffs. They have Tampa Bay winning the division. Toronto second. Like, this is close to my projections. And I'm so glad that I did my predictions when I did. And there was a part of me back when I did them thinking, this is early. But I wanted to make sure my predictions were online and dated before this set of magazines started coming out, because otherwise people could say, well, you're picking Carolina because other people are. And their playoff predictions aren't that far off from mine. They say Tampa's going to go to the semis. They have Anaheim losing to Edmonton in the second round. I think Edmonton's going to lose to Anaheim in the second round this year, but anything can happen there. They have Pittsburgh beating Tampa. The other thing that's odd to me is they have the Capitals beating Columbus in the first round. I actually have the Capitals further down than they do. They have Toronto and Montreal meeting in the first round. They have Edmonton and Calgary meeting in the first round. So there's some fantasy booking to the way they did it. But, yeah. I saw that, and I was actually quite happy about that. Prospects, everybody was asking me about prospects. And I had to look a couple of them up. Or a few of them up. Alex Nylander, they say, will be ready next year, not this season. Which is close to what I've been saying. DeBrincat they have making the team this year, but they admit that he needs to, bulk up a bit. And they have Hayden making the team next year. John Hayden had a pretty good run. He played 12 games, 4 points. I honestly think he makes the team. They have Tyson Jost making the team in Colorado. They have Dubois making the team in Columbus. And Bjorkstrand. They don't have Gabriel Carlson on the team. which I find kind of odd. I think he'll make it. They have Milano on the team. In Dallas, Heiskanen, they say, makes it next year. Julius Honka makes it this year. Detroit, they say Svechnikov next year. I've kind of hedged towards that as well. Said, well, you know, and Rasmussen, they say 20 to like 2021. There's Puljujarvi. There are a couple in particular I'm looking at here. Gabe Vilardi, they have for next year. Adrian Kempe this year. Eriksson Ek this year in Minnesota. They have Kunin for next year. Riley for this year. Gustav Olofsson for this year. So, decent crop in their eyes. Montreal, they say Juleson next year. Sherback next year. Dante Fabro they have for 1920. Hamenev is this year in their eyes. Heishire's this year. Michael McLeod they say is next year. So, and again, you know, prospects are so hit and miss. And they say Mackenzie Blackwood is like 20-21, so the 2021 season. There's Kiefer Bellows. They have Barzal making the team in New York. Del Cole, they don't have making the team until next year, but Pulak makes the team this year. Hosang, they have on the team this year as well. New York, I was asked about Lias Anderson. They have Lias Anderson making the team in 2019-2020 season. And the interesting thing in here is they say he needs to get bigger. So some of these guys that get drafted, you gotta develop them properly. Ottawa, they say Shabbat and White are both ready. Logan Brown, they say 2019 to 2020. Nolan Patrick, they have making the team. Sanheim, they have making the team. Moran, they have making the team. Haig, they say won't make the team till next year. Stallers, they say next year. Sprong, they say next year. I have to say, of images of draft picks when they're drafted, I love Sprong's picture. You know, no nonsense, no grinning. No, I'm the greatest. Just, yeah, I'm here for a picture. I got to go out. I got to hit some people and take some shots. They have Derek Pouliot making the team. This would be his last chance, though. Because it says here, needs to work on his ability to process the game quickly. Probably his last real chance. They don't have Aston Reese anywhere in here. Let's see if they project him into the lineup. Because they don't have him in the top 10 prospects. They do not have Aston Reese in the lineup. So, and then it says here, forwards Sprong and Zach Aston Reese could be the next Impact youngsters. Well, why don't you guys have them in your lineup then? That's so weird. That is so strange. That they're saying, yeah, could be the next big guy, but they don't project him into the lineup. They don't have him on the depth chart at all. That's so strange. For the Blues, Barbashev, they have. The other thing I noticed this year is they've got all of the team names in this weird font that I'm not a huge fan of, but I buy this magazine every year. This is the one that I never allowed to go by without buying it. The Hockey News one, absolutely. They've made a lot of money off me buying this magazine. Although this came with my subscription, so I'm very happy about my subscription. Danny O'Regan they have making the team, which is news to me. But he played 3 games and had a goal last year, so you never know. That's for San Jose. Tampa, there's Sergachev. They have him in the lineup. Hard-shooting physical blue liner, mature beyond his 19 years. He's ready to step right in. See, and I see 19 and I go, maybe. Maybe. But this is the first chance I get to see a lot of the stats from this past season in print. And part of the reason that I love having these magazines is that for me, seeing it on paper is different than seeing it online. It's probably my age, but it's just I much prefer seeing it on paper. There's Marchenko, who is going to the KHL. Vancouver Canucks. The R word is taken hold in Vancouver. Canucks can no longer deny the necessity of embracing a rebuild after a 29th place finish. Canuck fans have been ready for a rebuild for the last 2 years. And of course, this being the Vancouver edition, I got Bo Horvat on the cover. I was kind of hoping for an East Coast edition of the magazine. The last time I was a subscriber and got the magazine, it was 1999. And I got the Eastern edition, which had Cujo on the front for Toronto. And then the Vancouver edition had Felix Potvin for the Canucks. One of those I like, and one of those I was like, oh, good, our transitional goaltender. They have Ulevy making the team next year. Elias Pettersson making the lineup in 2019-20. Brock Besser this year, obviously. Demko, they say 2019 to 2020. Cole Lind is in here as well. Skilled playmaking winger with good hockey sense, could get stronger and shoot more. That should be for every prospect. He could get stronger and shoot more. He should probably get stronger. Can add some weight. What 18-year-old do you look at and say, he doesn't need it? Jake Virtanen, they say 18-19. Outstanding speed and shot, but his hockey IQ is suspect. Conditioning also an issue. Well, if he has outstanding speed and an outstanding shot, then conditioning can't be an issue at the same time. Conditioning will affect speed, and it'll affect his shot, because he won't have the stamina to be on the ice as much as he needs to in order to score. They have Dahlin listed in here, and Goldobin's listed in here. Has finishing ability, but needs to gain strength to keep up in the higher ranks. And that's something that I noticed with Goldobin when I watched him in the game against LA late in the year. They have Jona Gadjevich, and there's Brisebois. Opened eyes in NHL training camp last fall with his mobility and smooth skating. And those are the guys who could very well make it. Golden Knights. What do they say about the Golden Knights? Will visiting teams be blinded by the bright lights of the Strip, stay out too late the night before games, take the Golden Knights lightly, and surrender points to the league's newest franchise? Conversely, how will the Golden Knights players adjust to their new surroundings? That doesn't tell me anything. And they mention Gerard Gallant a lot as well when they're talking about the Golden Knights. And they have Alex Tuch as the number 3 prospect for them, and they say he'll make the team, and I agree. They have both Cody Glass and Nick Suzuki listed as next year, and Brandon Leipsic is this year. Capitals. There's Samsonov. See, I'm going to sound like Don Cherry in this, but that's the kind of picture I like to see for a prospect. That is fantastic. That business sort of appearance. Not a look that almost looks like confusion. Wait, I got picked by the Canucks? Wait, is that the team that really? Aren't they looking bad right now? Wait, they're counting on me to do what? That's a lot of pressure. And then for Winnipeg, of course, they have Kyle Connor as the top. It's a weird Future Watch, too. Usually the Future Watch, they have pictures of the number 1 prospect, and this year it's sort of random. It's sort of, some of them it's the first, it might be the second, it could be the third. But it's a very interesting magazine, and I will pour over it, and pour over it, and pour over it, and then the Sports Forecaster will come out, and the Pooler's Guide will come out, and at some point, I will have... This is the magazine I'm used to getting first every year, is the Ultimate Pool Guide. So, I intend to look at the prospects list and compare it to last year's. See who in their eyes has backed off. In other words, like they have Virtanen listed as not making the team this year, probably next year. Well, last year, did they say he was going to make the team last year? Probably. So, that kind of thing. But it's interesting because, like I said, their predictions are pretty close to mine. They're not that far off. So we will be equally wrong, Hockey News. Equally wrong. Except I made Montreal fans angry, and they're going to make Ottawa fans angry. Again, I recommend picking it up. A lot of tidbits and stuff I pick up from reading these magazines and from having this wall of magazines and books and all of this sort of stuff. And hockey cards. And people say, oh, why do you collect hockey cards? Because you can learn stuff reading hockey cards. It's not just the pictures, and it wasn't just the bubble gum back in the 80s. I actually read them all. It was funny when they had the, I think it was 81, 82, which had the pink backs, and all of them mentioned whether they were bachelors or they were married, and if they were married, how many kids they had. It felt like that year O-Pee-Chee became a dating site for hockey players. He's single, ready to mingle, and it's like, can you guys talk about, like, I don't know, something else? Not just whether they're single or not, because that's kind of weird. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I just figured that I would talk to you guys about this magazine that's arrived on my doorstep, and you guys can make a decision about whether or not to buy it or not, of course. And for anybody who's gonna type in, oh, you're sharing all this information, and people should have to buy it before they find that out. The Hockey News routinely shares a lot of this information on their website pretty darn quick. Now this magazine's out, I guarantee it's somewhere on their website, at least in terms of who's going to win the Stanley Cup. Pretty gutsy picking Pittsburgh. And again, last year they picked Tampa. The year before, I'm trying to remember who they picked. I think it was LA. Like, I know they've picked Washington a couple of times. Their success rate is not good. And I'm going to go through all these magazines and figure out what it is for the magazines that I have. It's not good. But it's kind of fun to look at, so we'll be going through that. It's an exciting day because we've started. Thank you very much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and I'll talk to you again soon. Oh, and anybody wondering about the t-shirt, Yvonne made this for me today. We are going down to Oregon on the weekend for the eclipse. So, yes, I intend to do a video or two. She has plans to go to Mount St. Helens. I would love to do a video with Mount St. Helens in the background or from the location of Mount St. Helens. There's nowhere on the planet that I would rather go than Mount St. Helens. So that's coming, potentially. And stay tuned and subscribe, because that's an important thing to do. I'll talk to you again soon.